No, you'd be surprised by how many people I meet at conventions. They'll wait for hours to meet you, and then they'll be like, I don't really like Lae'zel. It's funny because when I was recording for the role, I never ever thought of her as a bitch or as really mean. I just thought, oh, she's very honest, she's very unfiltered. I still know very little because I'm streaming the game at the moment, and every scene is a surprise.
Oh my God.
I was shocked. Again, I was shocked because I didn't know this. I didn't know you could turn the filters, like the nudity filters, on or off.
Did I? Maybe I do need a replay.
Are you making a note?
So what did end up happening though was in the audition, I used my normal voice, which is this. And then as we were recording, the voice started to go lower and lower and lower until we were kind of in this sort of Lae'zel sort of voice down here.
But you did say to me that Lae'zel was
My romance option.
Your romance
yeah,
option.
Yeah. So
Good.
let's leave that there.
You get well, we'll leave it at that. We all know what that means.
Welcome to the ReadyAimFire podcast, the stories behind your favourite games.
And the talented craftspeople who bring them to life. So today on our show, we are joined by the lovely Devora Wilde.
Yes, welcome.
Yeah.
The incredible Devora Wilde. Thank you so much for being here, Devora, and coming all the way in. So nice to be in person.
Yes,
with
it
you.
is nice to be in person, isn't it?
Yes, and to meet you for the first time.
Yes.
I feel like I've met you through we've got some lovely mutual friends, and just seeing your socials and how loved you are by your fans and by fellow people in the industry. It's just really nice to finally be in a room with you.
Thank you. Yeah.
And I've only met you through your work, so through Baldur's Gate 3 especially.
Right.
A big fan of Lae'zel, and obviously you've got a big community of fans behind you.
And obviously she's in your party at all times.
She's in my party at all times.
Thank God.
Yeah, number one.
Otherwise I'd be out of here.
Has all the best armour. Yeah,
great,
definitely.
great.
Yeah.
Best swords.
Yeah, exactly.
Great.
Yeah, definitely.
That's good. You
Yeah,
passed the
yeah.
test. Good.
I'm afraid I probably won't, being a massive fan of all the work in it, but not knowing much about the game. Like probably the only person on the planet not to know that much.
That's okay. You're exempt. That's fine.
Thank you. I mean,
That's
I'm going to
fine.
give it a go as soon as I've got the right equipment to do so. But I'm also looking forward to hearing a bit more about what the game is about. I know Tom is a massive fan, as probably everyone else in this room. So give me a little breakdown of the game. I know it's D&D.
unbelievable.
I'm the
It's
wrong
D&D.
person to do this.
Dungeons and Dragons D&D vibe.
Yes. It's amazing how difficult it is for me to summarize it in one word, in one sentence, having worked on it for so long. Okay, no, wait, I got it. You've got a tadpole in your brain and you have to get it out. And it's set in the universe of Dungeons and Dragons. I think that pretty much summarizes
up
it,
pretty
doesn't
well.
it?
You have a tadpole in your brain. I
Yeah.
wasn't expecting that. Okay.
I did give in to the tadpole too few many times, so my face started getting all dark and warped with veins.
Yeah.
But I could fly.
But you get
so
massive powers, yeah.
swings and roundabouts. It was worth it.
Oh, totally, yeah.
And that's you as the player has a tadpole in the brain, and then you meet all these characters outside of that.
Who also have tadpole. Well, actually, do they?
Oh.
Well, the Emperor is a tadpole,
Right.
but a grown-up
It's
tadpole.
embarrassing. I should know this
Yeah.
by now.
This is a very strange conversation for anyone who's walking past or doesn't know anything about Baldur's
It's
Gate
a very
3.
strange conversation for me, to be honest.
But
Yeah.
maybe tell us a little bit more. I mean, I'm sure you've done this 1,000 times, but tell us a little bit more about Lae'zel, the Githyanki warrior, and how you came to get into that role.
Yes. Well, Lae'zel, I mean, she's very straightforward, brutally honest. Some people call her mean. Some people call her a bitch. And to those people, I say, you need to sort yourself out because it's not true. Basically, it's a very weak defense. Basically, people think she's mean and rude and everything. But the fact of the matter is, and this might be interesting for you because you haven't got a sense of the game, you haven't played it yet, but she has come from a world and a society where being infected with this tadpole is the worst thing that could ever happen to her. And she's also the youngest member of this group of companions, these 6 main companion characters. And she's sort of been trained in this very sort of rigorous society, like a soldier, very militant. And now the one thing that they've said to her, this is the worst thing that could ever happen to you, has happened. And so she's very much on the path of, got to get the tadpole out. Let's not bother with the side quests, guys. Let's get on with the mission, which is kind of how I am in life. And, why did they cast me? I don't know. So anyway, so she's, as you know, she's very much like that. And so she's had quite a polarizing reaction to her to the
Misunderstood
character.
sometimes.
Yeah, I think misunderstood. It's funny because when I was recording for the role, I never ever thought of her as a bitch or as really mean. I just thought, oh, she's very honest, she's very unfiltered, and she just says what she means. Literally, she doesn't really get nuance so much. I think there's a couple of times where she sort of tries to crack a joke, but it doesn't quite work because she's a Githyanki, so they're completely they're not human. So it's like what you see is what you get. And like I always say, she's the only character that never lies to you.
I've got a confession to make. I didn't complete the Githyanki Kresh mission.
My God.
I'm sorry. But that leaves the gate
sounds
open
bad.
for a replay to do that. I don't even remember why. But I played it with my
Disappointed.
wife, and for whatever reason, we didn't get past that. I think we kept getting our asses kicked when we were down in like the ravine before you go
Yeah.
off when like the dragon turned up.
Yeah.
Kept getting, and I was like, let's go somewhere else. And then we never went back.
And you need to be, I think, quite high level to do
Yeah.
the crash.
I think we peaked too early.
Yeah,
So.
yeah.
But you did say to me that Lae'zel was
My romance option.
Your romance
yeah,
option.
Yeah. So
Good.
let's leave that there.
We'll leave it at that. We all know what that means. No, you'd be surprised by how many people I meet at conventions. They'll wait for hours to meet you, and then they'll be like, "I don't really like Lae'zel." I'm like,
Are they trying to neg
what
you?
are you doing? Yeah, like why have you just wasted your time then? Or they'll be
Very
coming with a
strange.
friend. I distinctly remember these two friends that were there, and one of them was like a huge fan, and then she sort of turned to her friend, and they were like, "And I'm not really a fan of Lae'zel." And I was like, "Okay, that's me humbled."
some people don't like to not like the characters then
Yes.
maybe kind of becomes their fave.
Yeah.
I will also point out that in the game, Lae'zel dumped me. So that happened.
Well, that was
Yeah.
probably something you did.
Yeah. I think it's because too much of the tadpole powers. Yeah.
Was it?
So we
was
fell
it?
out.
Was it you having eyes for someone else? Was that it?
No, there's someone had eyes for me. It was one of the male characters. I can't remember who. Wasn't Gale. Can't remember.
So is this kind of thing then to do with the Dungeons and Dragons with all the different ways it could go? So you do something and then, because my understanding, again, I should know more about Dungeons and Dragons, I guess, because it does look super fun. But from what I've seen, there's like a master who tells you what's happening, and then your
Yeah.
characters go on something completely different, depending what he said. So there must be so many strands in this game.
There is. There's
Okay.
loads of options. That's why I think when people finish the game, they start again and they can have a completely different experience. And I think that's really what makes the game so incredible. You buy one game, but essentially in this one game, you've probably bought 100 games.
I was going to ask that. I was going to ask why has this game, apart from I know it's got incredible performances in, has this been the game of, I don't know. What's
It was
the game of
it
this-
won 5 Game of the Year awards.
Yeah,
Basket
Swept-
Games it
swept-
won,
Yes,
didn't it?
yeah.
So-
Deservedly so. It's also
Deservedly
like
so.
it's not just about like the different story paths you can do, the way you can complete different sections of the game is so much fun watching people. I'm sure you've seen lots of clips where like you can go down and have a fight with the people that you can see at the bottom of the hill, or you can like set up a grenade that's going to hit a rock that's going to roll off the cliff and squish half of them, and like there's lots of different ways you can complete the same mission, and people get very creative.
Yeah.
So it's lots of fun.
Again, from an actor's point of view here, how long did this take to film then if there were so many
4.5
options?
years.
4.5 years.
4.5 years.
And
Yeah.
how long were they working on it before you guys came in, do you know?
I think about maybe 2 or 3 years before that.
Okay, gosh.
Yeah, it's mad to think. I really didn't know the scale of it when I came on board. Initially, it was only meant to be, I think, a 2-year thing. I think they were planning to do Act 1 and then see how it goes and release that in early access, which is what they ended up doing. And then they got loads of feedback, and then I think they saw that it had potential, was going to be successful. This is obviously how it was presented to me. I don't know what was going on behind the scenes. And then we went back and did Act 2 and Act 3.
And was that during COVID or was that before?
Yeah, before we started in 2019, went into 2020, then everything shut down because of COVID. We had a bit of a break. It wasn't too bad because obviously the nature of it means we can be very isolated. So we came back a few months later, very, very distant. Obviously everyone's in the booth by themselves. All the directors were offline somewhere, remote. And so it kind of worked for that setup. It really, really worked. Even after the game came out, we were adding little bits. They're always adding stuff to it, which I think is really great.
Because when you won Game of the Year, there was everyone in the band, wasn't there, playing, they were all playing different instruments in the band. They did it was one little tiny update. It was like 10 meg or something.
Yeah.
But when you went into it, there was like a video of like Astarion playing the guitar.
Oh,
and I
maybe.
think Carlac was on the drums. So it was very fun.
Yeah, they update. They added new endings as well.
Yeah,
they
yeah.
added all sorts of stuff. So again, that's what makes it really cool. I think a lot of games, again, I didn't really have much knowledge of the video game industry before I did this game particularly. And what I found out was that a lot of people were complaining and weren't very happy because they'd buy a game, which is quite expensive, and then they have to like buy stuff in the game. And with Baldur's Gate 3, you get the game and then you have all these cool updates and you don't have to spend any more money, which I think is incredible, really, for the amount of content you get is really good.
Well, you were in, not to have a go at Capcom, but you were in Dragon's Dogma 2 as well, and they did that in Dragon's Dogma 2.
Right.
And you had lots of microtransactions.
Yeah, people had a go at me, but I was like, it's not my fault. I'm not the game dev, guys.
That's a good little
Leave me alone.
I did a bit on Dragon's Dogma 2, and there's a few other games that we share a title with. But the question I had was, obviously, we've never been together in a room doing the voice, even though we've been in the same game.
Yeah.
Potentially the same scene. We probably don't even know.
That's crazy, yeah.
But with, for example, then, Baldur's Gate, how much of that before COVID then maybe did you get to work together on a scene, or was it always separate?
Always separate.
Always separate,
yes,
okay.
Yeah, always separate. There was, Baldur's Gate, I want to say, you might have to fact check this for me, but I want to say 248 actors, something like that. IMDb will tell us. So scheduling wise, I think it was pretty difficult to get people in the same room to do scenes. We did, we were like, oh, we really want to be in the same room. And I think they did try, but it was tricky to do.
I've seen a clip of you reacting to realising that the cats can talk when you have a certain spell in Baldur's Gate.
Yes.
So did you know that there were voice actors voicing the animals?
I knew very little. I still know very little because I'm streaming the game at the moment and every scene is a surprise. And then people are like, why is she so surprised? Because I didn't know. The game is so big. How am I supposed to know every single scene? I was so focused on my character and my journey and my different pathways. And also I didn't have access to all the scripts, did I? So that's why and I had very limited knowledge of D&D. Actually, when I say limited, I mean zero. So I didn't know that cats can talk and dragons can fly. Well, I knew that, but do you know what I mean? Like I didn't really know, and I didn't know how it worked with casting spells, like speak with animals, and really know what that was. So it's a great big surprise for me still.
It's a whole new world. I love that though. About what other medium can you be in something and you're like, oh, I'm finding stuff out as I go.
Exactly,
it's
yeah.
rare.
Because in a film or a TV show, most of the time you'll know the whole story. You'll have read the whole script, and not in this case. No, in this case, everyone was, I think, rightfully so, focused on their own narrative because it's so rich and it's so there's so much of it that I think if you were going off and seeing other people's stories, not that it would have any impact on you, but I think it was in many ways irrelevant to your journey. So you want to just do justice to your journey. So
going back then, so obviously you started out in film. I believe you started out in Rush. Is that correct?
Yes. Oh my God.
How did that
cool.
translate?
Wow. It's a blast from the past.
Great film though.
Great film. If you pause it and you zoom in to the screen, somewhere among the many background sort of blurred faces, you might see me.
There you go.
Probably won't.
I love that. Imagine how many people are looking now for Devora.
Trust me, I've
You've
tried.
got to give us a time code.
I've tried to find myself and I cannot. So if you can find me, please send me a little clip.
But how did that work translate into gaming? Like, how did the two worlds collide?
Very randomly. We'd done a bit of voice work at drama school, and I was getting to the point about 5 or 6 years into my career where I was doing a lot of side hustles and I was getting very frustrated with them. And I was just like, gosh, I really need to do something that's still acting, but is kind of giving me that creative fulfillment and is making me some money so that I'm not doing tiny bits of acting and then other jobs on the side that are kind of detracting from that. I wanted to kind of marry the two. And I was like, oh, I remember them talking about voice work at drama school, but not a lot. It was kind of presented, and I graduated 12 years ago. So at that time, video games we didn't even cover. That was not even a thing. Other voice things were like radio dramas and maybe some commercials, but it was kind of like, yeah, it's just sort of glossed over. Fine. And I was like, God, I came out with some kind of reel. Yeah, okay, maybe I should send that to some agents and see what happens. And I did, and didn't hear anything back, which is obviously very standard. And then a few months later, my now current agent reached out and said, oh, we have an audition for Eastern European character. I'm Bulgarian, so can you do an accent for this character? And I think that was in Ghost Warrior, Sniper, Ghost Warrior,
Okay, yeah.
Contacts. I don't actually know what game is called, which is really bad. But we can fact check that. And I auditioned for that and I booked it. And then she sent me the Baldur's Gate 3 audition, which I didn't know it was Baldur's Gate 3. And a few people from our cast said as soon as they saw it, they knew it was Dungeons and Dragons and they had an inkling it would be. Not me. I was like, oh, okay. All the different like races were described, but kind of like in a different way. So they had like a half elf, or I think the tiefling was something like a devilkin or something.
Okay, yeah.
So if you had some sort of knowledge, maybe you would have clicked, but I didn't. And I think I auditioned for all of them, including Shadowheart.
Okay.
And sent it off. It was a 45-second audition that I did in my living room, filmed it on my phone. It was motion capture, so I had to film knees up. And then I think not very long after I found out I booked it, I didn't really know. I knew it was a main role. And I remember my agent saying, this is going to be for 2 years. And I was like, what? A 2-year job? What? Oh my God. I was so happy. And that's all I could think about. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to have an acting job for 2 years. Thank God. That was the plan. That was my plan all along. But yeah, didn't really know the size of the character, didn't know the scale of the thing. And then my agent and I started working together properly. And I just started I was kind of on a roll. I was just like booking loads of work. So it just happened really randomly. It just happened from my frustration of really wanting to not have any more side jobs as an actor. And funnily enough, once I started getting this voice acting work, I was like, oh, this is so cool. This can be my little side hustle while I still pursue my TV and film. And 5 or 6 years later, it's kind of become the main thing. And that's great. And I love that. And it doesn't stop me pursuing any other stuff. I think I'm still auditioning for TV and film and for video games. And I think it's great. And I find it very, very fulfilling.
Yeah, you have a plethora of credits out on IMDb in terms of screen stuff. It's lovely. You do a real mixture between the two, it seems. You kind of jump from one to the other, which is the dream, hey?
It is the dream. Yeah, yeah. And that's why I say to people, video games are evolving at the moment. I think it's a real golden age for video games. I think the writing, and I've said this before about Baldur's Gate 3, the writing on that game is better than any TV show or film I've been in.
Right.
And I did not expect that because I didn't have a framework. I'd never played video games and I'd never been in one. So I didn't really know what to expect. And then I was just blown away, reading these lines that Lae'zel says. And I was like, God, this is so powerful. It's almost Shakespearean. I mean, you've played it. She's just, the way she speaks, it's so poetic. It's so rich. It's really nothing like what I think people's perception of a video game character or video game writing is. I think back in the day, video games received a lot of criticism for being not very well written, not very well acted. But I think we are long past that. We're in a new age, guys. It's a new world. And I really encourage people to embrace that, especially actors, because, I was a little bit unsure going into it. I just thought it was just presented to me as video games, voice work. It wasn't a real thing. And it is a real thing. It's absolutely legitimate thing. And a lot of actors I speak to say they're way more creatively fulfilled doing video games than they are TV and film. And I can see that.
So ReadyAimFire is a production company, and we predominantly, do live action stuff, but within the world of gaming. Whenever we speak to young people, especially young filmmakers who want to get into, they all want to get into gaming in some way or other. What would be your advice to maybe your younger self or to any young actors who want to get into gaming, who see that as the next big thing and want to be a part of it?
Well, certainly get some footage together. Get some, by footage, I mean a voice reel. That can be so basic. You can just do it on your phone, record a few different things. It doesn't need to be professional, polished yet. Reach out to people in the industry. There's, it's a very small world, as you know. It's a small world. London's a great hub for it, but I don't think there's that many companies doing it. So you can find out, you can reach out, make yourself available. For me, I think it happened very randomly because I didn't really have my sights set on it. So I was very chill with it. I was very not desperate with it, which helps. That really, really helps.
It's good that, because I'm similar to you, you don't necessarily need this massive history in games, do you, of
Not
being
at
a gamer
all.
to be?
No, you don't need a
part of
history of being a gamer. And also, like, I went into Baldur's Gate having never done motion capture, and I was a bit like, oh gosh, how's this going to work? It was fine. It was so because it's very much like I see it as acting for theatre. It's just you're using your voice and you're using your body. You're acting like a normal actor, any actor would do anyway. So I don't think people need to be intimidated by that either, because a lot of people ask me like, oh, I need experience probably doing motion capture. I'm like, you absolutely don't. Unless you want to be doing the stunty part of motion capture, obviously then you need training for that. Like I didn't do the fights in Baldur's Gate 3 or the romances or anything like that. But for the rest of the scenes, I didn't need special training for that. So,
Question.
Yeah.
The romances. What were they exactly? So I get the fighting side.
I think that's a question for you.
I played the game as it's supposed to be played. I didn't do anything wrong. I just want that as a disclaimer. So the romances are, as you go for it and you pick up companions, you can, you talk to all of your different people within your group. So they'll give you quests. They'll have, they'll have their own story quests. So
and there's physical romances.
There's physical romance, yeah.
Which you didn't do the mocap for, is that what you
No, I didn't do the mocap. I did the voice, obviously.
It's like a cut scene, so I'm not sure anyone did the mocap for that. If they did, then good for you.
I think people,
they did, yeah.
Did they?
I have a feeling people did the cut scenes for those.
Really? I assume that was
I
just
don't-
like traditional animation.
Oh, maybe it was actually. Maybe some of the more graphic stuff. Because when we say romance, obviously we mean romance in
Yes.
the
I thought so, yeah.
In the modern sense.
in the modern.
I prefer, like what my nan used to say, leave it at the bedroom door. That's what she always liked about old movies, because it was always like, my darling. And then
Oh,
it
I
was
see,
just
and then
like
they close
fade
the
to black and then they
door.
close the
Yes.
door and that was it.
Does not happen
Don't
in
need to
Baldur's Gate 3.
see the rest of it.
We don't leave anything at the door. And sometimes if you have the filters set to off, you see quite a lot.
Oh my God.
I was shocked. Again, I was shocked because I didn't know this. I didn't know you could turn the filters, like the nudity filters, on or off.
Did I? Maybe I do need a
Did
replay.
I? Are you making a note?
Neither do I. Oh, note to self, turn filters off. Yeah, because also I'm streaming it, so I have the filters on. And then for some, have you done the Minthara romance?
No, I don't think I picked. I think, is Minthara the quite aggressive?
The drow.
Yes, I left her behind.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry, Minthara.
Oh.
She didn't make the cut. But Lae'zel did.
Yeah. Well,
So we should be
actually,
happy,
that's
yeah.
good. That was kind of like a little test because
Yeah.
you said you didn't. Good. You've
No,
passed.
Minthara didn't make it.
Kind of getting FOMO now. I need to play this game. I need to know.
I should point out for people who don't know, which is everyone, because why would you know this? The only person that does know is my wife, that my character was like a 6'5" paladin with long blonde hair who was supposed to
lovely.
look like Flash Gordon from the 1980s movie.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know why, but it just inspired me.
Okay.
But then by the end, he was like purple
Sort of,
monster
yeah.
thing because of all the
Because all the tadpoles.
tadpole juice.
It happens. Yeah, it happens.
Yeah.
On that note, can I rewind a bit?
Yeah, sorry.
Just because I'm so fascinated I'm always fascinated about people's journeys into the business, and obviously, especially with yours, you speak Russian, is that right?
I'm fluent in Bulgarian because I grew up in Bulgaria and I was born there. Russian I could get by in a very basic conversation.
Wow, well, that's
We learnt it at school, even though actually I went to school in England, but it was one of the options. And I was like, oh, Russian's really close to Bulgarian. I should do that. And it was easy for me the first like couple of years while everyone else caught up to like the Cyrillic alphabet and all of that. And I was like, oh God, this is so easy for me. Like, oh, such a good choice for my GCSEs. And then we went into like A-level Russian and I was like, so a little bit tricky now. There's big overlaps between Russian and Bulgarian. Lots of the words are the same. The alphabet's pretty much the same, but Russian has like, I don't know what the word is in English. It has like some ending. You have to put like some endings on the words.
Like a suffix.
Or prefix goes at the beginning. Kind of like I don't know what the word is, like a grammatical thing that we don't have in Bulgarian. So that was difficult for me. But I can, if somebody speaks to me at a moderate pace, I can understand, I can get by.
And you can do a great accent,
I can do the accent, yes.
Which is, I suppose, gold dust in games for someone to do a really good Russian.
It is good. I mean, we're still unfortunately in that era of Eastern European characters are the baddies in gaming. And that's it's a bit boring.
Not in the Metro franchise.
The which one?
Metro franchise.
Oh, I don't know
They're the
that.
hero, or they're also the villains, but they're also the heroes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's good.
That's good.
Yeah, I think that's fertile ground definitely for someone with the accent skills and the
Okay.
language skills.
And good to have a character because honestly, I have to say, like, even just thinking back on the auditions I've done with Eastern European characters in gaming, 9 times out of 10 they're the baddies. 9 times out of 10, I'm like, okay, all right, snooze. Okay, like, guys, can we think of something a little bit different now? This has been done. So that's a bit unfortunate, and I'm hoping that that's gonna change. I think it would be interesting.
Have you done voiceovers whilst you were pregnant or anything like that? Was that something, because obviously that's a world you can work in whatever.
Yeah, so I did Baldur's Gate 3 while I was recording for Baldur's Gate 3 2 days before I gave birth.
That's dedication.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I was recording it throughout pretty much the whole time. Obviously, at the beginning, it was fine. And then towards the end, I was getting a bit more like, oh, okay.
Are we in the suit or is this voice?
We're in the suit, yeah, because we did motion capture for it as well.
Every time?
Oh, every time.
Oh.
Yeah, pretty much every time. 95% of the time we'd be in the suit. And so by the end, I'd have to have a little chair. So between the lines, I'd just go and have a little sit down. And then it was getting towards the end and they were like, are you sure you want to come in? I said, guys, I'm going to be here right up until the due date. Just you watch. Just you watch. Because I felt fine. Yeah, I felt fine and nobody was pressuring me to, they were like, you can leave whenever you want. But I was like, guys, I feel fine. Like, why would I, let's hit it. Let's hit the ground running now. And also it was, this was coming up to May 2023. The game was due out in August. So I knew, like, the game has to come out. Like, come on, guys, we need to get on it. It was coming up to that week where I was about to give birth and I was still coming into the studio and I was like, see you tomorrow. And they were like, maybe. And I was like, ah. And then my waters broke after the session. And I said to my husband, I feel all right. Maybe I can go in tomorrow. And he went, you're absolutely not going in tomorrow.
He put his foot down, I don't blame him.
Yeah, he was like, I think now's probably not the time.
That's a true actor though, right?
Yeah.
Up until the end, I'm going to continue.
That's got to be a first.
I know, yeah.
That's
Because I felt fine. I was like, oh, water's break. It's not a big deal, is it? I still very much in denial about the fact that I had to push a human being out. But it was fine. And then I think people the next day were finding out and they were like, oh my God, she's having a baby. I think they were maybe having like bets on what day it was going to be. So anyway, I was, but that's one of the great things about video games, that you can do it whenever.
While giving birth.
While giving birth.
We needed some battle screens. We've just rigged a mic.
Exactly.
Hope you don't mind.
But I do find that very liberating. I mean, look, as a woman, that I had a big concern about that. When I have children, what's it going to be like? Am I going to get not cast in things because I'm pregnant or because I have a child? And I was quite concerned about that. And video games are incredibly accommodating because it doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter what size you are. It doesn't matter if you're 2 hours away from giving birth. And so again, that's one of the things I find incredibly freeing and fantastic for, if you want to start a family, or it's very flexible. It can kind of, you can do a lot of the stuff from home, especially over the pandemic. A lot of the stuff we were doing from home because we had to. Now I think most studios will have, prefer to have you back in. But yeah, that's really great.
And did you say it was 3 to 4 years you were doing it overall?
About 4.5 years.
4.5, sorry.
Yeah.
And during that, how much of that in the year would you be? Would it be in and out and you could work around projects? Sometimes
we were in every day. Sometimes there were big gaps of a few months, say. But I'll give you this as an example. At the beginning of 2020, right before the pandemic, I'd booked a TV show in Bulgaria. And I'd already done a big chunk of recording for Lae'zel. And I said to my agent, I really want to go and do this TV show. How is it going to work? And they spoke to the studio that we were doing recording here, Pit Stop, the wonderful Pit Stop, who we worked with for 4.5 years doing this. And they were like, it's fine. We can make it work. So what I was doing was basically going to Bulgaria for about 10 days, doing my scenes, and then coming back here for 5 days, doing recordings, and then flying backwards and forwards. I did that until March, which is when obviously shit hit the fan with COVID. And then...
You weren't pregnant at this time?
No, I wasn't. No,
Not that in as well, too.
No, absolutely not. And then in many ways, actually the pandemic made my life easier because the production shut down and they were kind of like, well, you can either stay and finish it, but we don't know how long we're going to be able to run for. but that might mean you can't go back to the UK. And I was like, I can't be stuck here and not know when I'm going to go back and not have the potential to finish Baldur's Gate 3. So I had to kind of make a choice. And then when I left, actually, inevitably in a couple of weeks, they did shut down because they had to. So it did work around lots of other projects over these years because it can. And, you know, they're kind of very flexible, which is amazing.
I've heard Larian are lovely. And when I've seen them accept awards or the way the actors are about them, or there seems like a very close-knit, friendly, lovely team.
They're lovely. You know, it was an amazing experience. I have nothing but good words to say about Larian and about Pit Stop and about the whole team that we worked with. And it was so strange, actually, because I never really had an interaction with the writers from Larian until I met them at the rap party. So Kevin Van Ord, shout out to Kevin Van Ord, who's the lead writer for Lae'zel and for Will. Also, I don't know if you knew this, but they're very different characters, very different. And I didn't meet Kevin until the rap party. And I was just like, I feel like I know you. And it was an amazing experience. And I felt very free. You know, I didn't feel like, the writers were so precious with their material that like I couldn't do it. If anything, what was happening, it was a really interesting creative process because I was putting my take on Lae'zel. They were kind of listening to that and they were like, oh, okay, I see she's being a little bit more sarcastic here, or she's being a bit more like deadpan here. We're going to write for that. So the next section of lines or the next scenes would be a little bit more geared to what I was doing. And then maybe I'd put in something else and then they'd come back. So it felt really cool, really collaborative.
So from the initial audition, which I saw actually, and I loved what you did with her stats. It was great. Obviously, you got it. Would you say it developed a lot? Did she change? I obviously haven't played the game. Has she changed a lot from that, with you both obviously collaborating to what ended up coming out? Was it kind of like a journey with her?
She didn't change as much as the other characters. I think someone like Shadowheart got changed quite a lot because she was a lot meaner at the beginning.
Oh, really?
So they changed her, they toned her back a little bit. Lae'zel didn't change so much as a character. What did end up happening though was in the audition, I used my normal voice, which is this. And then as we were recording, the voice started to go lower and lower and lower until we were kind of in this sort of Lae'zel sort of voice down here. And at one point I was like, is anyone going to notice that the voices are a little bit different between Act 1 and Act 2 and 3? And we didn't have time to go back and re-record everything. And I was a little bit concerned because at the beginning I am using this. And then as we were sort of collaborating on it, we just naturally, it wasn't like a decision that we all took together. Naturally, the voice just lowered. And we stayed in this very low, sort of almost animalistic, like red, sort of sneery register for her for some of it. And then we thought, you know what, it's going to be character development. That's what it's going to be.
I love that. A good journey for her. Why not? You
a great journey. It works. Actually, it really works. And also, I don't think I haven't seen anyone pick up on it apart from me. And I guess that's because it's my voice and because I know that that's what we did. But it actually really works. So like I said, she's the youngest character. So she comes in with this kind of voice that I have now. So a bit of more bravado, a bit more like, yeah, well, we're going to do this mission and I'm going to show you guys. And by the end, she's a completely different character, as you know. So it kind of works for her to go on this journey.
It's like Luke Skywalker starts out as like a little fresh-faced farm boy. I always have to bring things back to Star Wars. I always get told off. But obviously then by the end, he's a Jedi and it's completely different.
There you go.
Dark, deeper, more masculine voice, all that kind of stuff.
Lae'zel the Jedi.
Lae'zel the Jedi, yeah.
I like that.
Or the Last Jedi.
the last Githyanki.
The Last Githyanki, yeah. There you go, Larian. There's your next title. DLC.
DLC.
I did see an incredible cartoon actually of the characters that was made. This is going way back. I saw it on X. Once upon a time, of the characters from Baldur's Gate.
We did some animations.
Incredible.
Yeah, we did some animations with Larian. So they did, I think we've done 2 or 3 now. They've done it to like do launches. So they did it to launch the mods, or they did it for like a Christmas thing. And it really works. I think that's a great idea for a spin-off, like do a little animation. I think, you know, obviously everyone wants more and more of this content, so it would be so fun for us to do. So
is there more Baldur's Gate or anything coming up? Do we know anything?
Not that I know of. Honestly, don't know. I know the only thing I know is what everyone else knows, that Larian, I think, have said they won't be doing any more Baldur's Gate. Right. That's what I know. They've announced that publicly. Whether somebody else is going to do it, Who knows? Who knows? But I think in many ways it's a very smart decision. They've made something so special and so incredible and so unique and literally once in a lifetime that it would be so exciting now for people to see them do something else and probably smash it because they're amazing at everything they do.
They're also like couch co-op games are so rare nowadays. And like me and my wife love playing couch co-op games, but there's so few of them. And we played Divinity Original Sin 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And then obviously found out that they were doing Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah.
And I tried back in the day to play Baldur's Gate, the original. Well, not back in the day because I would have been 8. But when I was a bit older, I tried to play Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 and I just couldn't get into them for whatever reason.
Okay.
But when I'd play Divinity Original Sin 1 and 2 and I saw obviously the trailer, the amazing trailer of everyone turning into a giant squid, for Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah.
It was very exciting. Obviously, you know, the rest is history. It's a brilliant game.
Yeah.
But how much did you know about the studio and their previous work when you booked it? Nothing at all?
Nothing. I literally knew nothing. I probably didn't really know the name Larian until maybe a few months into the recording.
Really?
Because, like I said, we were going to Pit Stop to do the recordings. And that was kind of my like immediate universe. And obviously I actually didn't know it was Baldur's Gate 3 until I want to say about a year into the recording, because I hadn't bothered to ask. I had my brilliantly written character. I was working. I was very happy. I didn't need to know what this game was. And also, like, it's a funny thing, isn't it? Because you think like, well, how can you be doing this project for a year without knowing what it is? I didn't need to know anything other than what was written on the page. That's how well it was written.
So you didn't know like the character design, you didn't know what she looked like, or?
I think I knew what she looked like.
Right,
I think they showed me a picture. But early access Lae'zel, like all the characters, were very different. I don't know if you've seen pictures.
I haven't, no.
They're very different to what they look like now. Okay, not very different, but they are a little bit
I know
different.
what you mean. There's like an evolution.
There's a little bit of an evolution. So I think I knew what she looked like. But again, I didn't necessarily need that to play her. I just kind of needed what was there in front of me.
I think that's a really good point to make, actually, for anyone out there that doesn't know that usually with games, isn't it? You've got the code name for a long time, and you're potentially only given your sides. Not all the time now, but in some incantations, you are just given what you have, and you find out maybe even when it's out. Oh, this is what I was working on.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
We did an interview with Jack Ayres, another great voice actor and actor. At EGX last year, and he said sometimes he said, well, I think he did Black Myth Wukong, and he said they gave him like the full history. This is what he is. He's like, some kind of god and all this kind of stuff. And he was great. That was great. He said, but sometimes it's like, he's a general and he's 40, and you're like, anything else? Like, no.
Yeah.
Here's your lines. It's like, okay.
I recently had suddenly people messaging me and like tagging me and stuff, and they were like, I found you in Space Marine 2. I found you in, like, are you this in Space Marine 2? And I was like, Space Marine 2? No. I was like, this is weird. I wonder if there's somebody that has like the same voice as me. And I was like, can you send me like a clip of this? And somebody sent me a clip and I was like, oh, that is me.
Yeah.
Huh. Didn't know it was Space Marine 2. Apparently I am also in that. But that's
Great.
again because I didn't know the code name. I knew the code name and didn't know the game.
Yeah.
So yes, sometimes you'll get very limited information. But actually that's really nice sometimes, because if it's like a 40-year-old general, whatever, they're actually okay with them to be with you to be like, just do your own thing. Show us what you've got, and then if we've got a steer on it, we'll give you like some notes. But I found them to be, most studios I've worked with, to be very open and very open to collaboration, to what you can bring to it, which is incredibly freeing as an actor from the other side of things.
And you mentioned earlier that you've had fans come up queue for hours and then tell you that they don't like your character. But what's the strangest or funniest fan interaction you've ever had?
Sometimes I'll have people like literally drop to their knees and be like, my queen.
Were they wearing a fedora?
No, but I did have a lovely young, why am I calling him a young man? Like I'm some sort of old woman. A man there with his wife.
Right.
And I didn't realize she was the wife. She was filming, and I thought she was just a friend. And he literally, I was like in front of the desk, and he like drops down on his knees and goes, my queen.
Oh dear.
And I'm like, oh God, what do I do? Like, how do I react? And I was like,
Pepper spray?
and I was like, rise. I was just like, maybe I should play along. And then she goes, oh, yeah, sorry, my husband, he's like really into Lae'zel.
I can tell,
and I was like, whoa, okay there, you're the wife. Okay, great.
Wow.
So it's funny stuff like that. Nothing weird, really, nothing weird. But just people that are very passionate. And that's amazing. Because again, when I went into this, I was just grateful to have a job. So grateful. And a job for 2 years, like, come on, living the dream. And so then to have people that are so passionate about these characters is kind of blown my mind a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes I feel like I just went in and said the words and I didn't really
That's a massive
do anything.
compliment though, right? To the fact that you've embodied the character.
Yeah,
So.
of course, it's a massive compliment. And obviously when the game came out and I saw all these things about, oh, she's so mean and she's this and she's that. And I thought, oh, okay, well, at least she's polarizing. I think that's better than having people be indifferent to her. But I don't know then if people will actually really like her. And now I think people have had time to play the game and go through maybe some of the other characters that were their favorites. And then they're like, okay, I'll give Lae'zel a chance. And they're like, oh, I'm in love with her. She said she's so cute and she's so cool once you get to know her. Yeah, it's very, very special. It's amazing.
Baldur's Gate really is unique in how it has just blown up. So like you said earlier, it must be quite nice not to have known that was going to happen so you could just totally be free.
So nice. Yes. Yeah, I think had I known what I know now, I wouldn't have done so good of a job. I just would have put too much pressure on myself. I would have really been intimidated by this whole universe. Oh my God, it's Dungeons and Dragons. It's huge. The Githyanki, there's so much lore about them. There's so much stuff about them. And I didn't really, some people might think that this is like a bad actuary thing to do, but I didn't ever think to really, maybe I did like a one of those wiki pages on the Githyanki and I read a little bit there, but I didn't go too much into detail. And I think that was kind of to my benefit, really. Otherwise, I would have got bogged down and like, what is a Githyanki? What is a Githyanki like? Oh, they're aliens, so maybe I need to make her sound like really like alien. I just focused on making her a real creature, someone that's grounded in reality and in authenticity rather than bogged down in this whole world.
And you had directors the whole time for this one?
Yeah, so we had a voice director and a performance director, that did our motion capture. Again, having that team of people, and I always say this, the writers, the producers, and that whole team, you feel really, really supported. And none of us, I don't think, could have done as good a job on this game that everybody did without that support. I think sometimes in TV and film, you are kind of thrown in the deep end. They liked your audition, you're on set, we've got an hour to do your scene if you're a day player, whatever. Right, do it. Off you go. Yeah, that was fine. Okay, bye, see you later. And you're like, was it fine though? What? Yeah, but. Like, did you like it or are you going to cut me from it later on because you don't have time? And it wasn't like that at all. I felt very, very supported, very, again, collaborative. That's the word that seems to be coming up today, but it was really collaborative. And I think when you've got people, two people giving you different sets of notes, sometimes it can be distracting a little bit, but most of the time you can kind of marry the two and you can really elevate the performance because they'll be picking up on something that you've missed inevitably with this character.
Good communication then between everyone.
Yes.
Communication.
Having people that you like working with and that you trust. And I've got to say all the directors we had were just really fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I've always loved, which is what you've just said really, is that thing that you have no divide between yourself and the computer and the technicians, which is lovely, isn't it? They're there with you in the space, whereas sometimes on screen, you're not working with them or they're somewhere else. Or
exactly.
It's really nice that you just get to be one big team together, kind of unique. No hierarchy.
No
just
hierarchy. No, and I always say this about video games. I think there is no hierarchy, certainly not from the projects that I've worked on. There's none of this like number one on the call sheet bullshit, celebrity, or you're the celebrity or you're not the celebrity. There's none of that. I mean, obviously for Baldur's Gate 3, we had celebrity casting. We had J.K. Simmons and Jason Isaacs.
That's right, yeah.
I never interacted with them on set because we all did everything in isolation. But, it felt very equal. And I've since met Jason Isaacs and he's lovely. And, and we're all part of this project together and there's none of this bullshit about like, oh, well, I'm a celebrity, I'm this and I'm that. And I think that's very special about games, and it really creates I think it creates a better project in many ways because nobody's concerned about a fame or about who's the most famous in the room or who's, going to get their rider of their red M&Ms or do you know what I mean? All of that stuff, which can sometimes happen in TV and film. It's great working atmosphere.
So good. And we go into it knowing what we know, right? And what we do. And then we're fully aware that they know their craft so well, which is what we're hoping to do with this podcast actually, is to understand and learn the other sides of it so much. And I do feel like when you're in that space, you're like, look what they're doing on this screen. We'd never usually get to see this.
Exactly.
How are they doing this?
Exactly. Yeah, I'm like, how are they? Because you all I could see from my end, and actually sometimes I wouldn't even see it, but it would be me in the suit, but then like as a Power Ranger on the screen. So I'd look, and I could choose my color. So more often than not, I'd be a pink Power Ranger and I'd be sort of walking around. But then once we started the shoot, I would just have that off screen so I could see the lines. But then, sometimes if something went wrong, they'd be like, no, it's okay. We can just fix that or we can do this. And you go around to their side and you see their screen and you're like, I have no idea what's going on there. Like there's just like figures and numbers and this and like loads of complicated things. So it really gives you an appreciation. And again, you can't do it without everyone being involved. And I think the nature of the business is that the actors, once the game has come out or the project has come out, the actors get a lot of the accolades, which is lovely for us. But the truth of the matter is that we couldn't have done this alone.
Yeah. I'm going to take us on a bit of a diversion.
Oh, go on then.
As an actor, how do you feel about the rise of AI, especially in the gaming world and the film world?
Yeah.
How do you feel it's going to impact roles like yours? Are you happy about it? Are you angry about it?
Nobody's happy about the fact that this technology could potentially replace actors. Of course, none of us want that to happen. And I don't think it should happen. Realistically, I don't believe that AI, at least at this point, can replicate the stuff that we do. I really don't believe that can happen. And I don't think it should happen. I think acting is such a human art form. Some of the most magical moments you will get in the unexpected, in something that you just come out with, you ad lib, or a moment or a chemistry between yourself and another actor. If we lose that, then I don't think there's any point really. To answer your question, there are certain things that I'm concerned about. I think in gaming, there is the technology available where they can obviously take your the things that you've recorded and then kind of repurpose them to create like a brand new character. That is very concerning and obviously shouldn't happen. And luckily, we've got things in place now and contracts where we don't really allow that to happen, and we have those measures in place. So, I think it is on everyone's mind, and it is important. I'm so glad that people are standing up for themselves, because as actors, I think historically we don't really stand up for ourselves, and this is a moment where we really should.
I think we probably all agree in the same way, like especially generative AI, which is effectively just stealing from people, from artists, from actors, from, techs, from devs, all these kind of things. I think it's inevitable. Like there's going to be some form of AI use, especially in gaming. But have you encountered anything?
Well, I was just about to say that I don't think I've seen it for me, but a few of my castmates from Baldur's Gate 3 had their kind of lines taken from the game and then run through this machine. I don't know how it works, so I'm probably explaining it really badly. Run through this machine, and then basically they could use their voices to say absolutely anything. Yeah. And they'd found this kind of a whole database, and their voices had been used for all sorts of very horrible, like as if they were saying very horrible things, very, and it sounds like they are saying it. So, and I think they tried to kind of have it taken down, but it was a very difficult process. You can't just be like, take it down, please.
The internet, once it's out there.
Once it's out there, it's out there. Yeah, yeah. So it's just, it is concerning. It is concerning.
You're right, though. It's good that we're getting more things in place and our unions working really hard.
Absolutely,
so,
yeah, as they should be, yeah.
Well, to put us back on a happy note, what's been your best day at work so far?
Oh, wow, just one.
What's been your best days at work so far?
Days. Oh, God. Do you know, probably, and I wouldn't even call this work, but probably going to these conventions and meeting people has been one of the highlights, if not the highlight of the last sort of 18 months. Because A, because I didn't expect it, and B, because I really didn't understand how people had been so affected by Lae'zel. In the sense of, there are moments there where I felt very affected by her and her journey, but I didn't really get it until people would come up to me and say stuff like, I've experienced, and you know Lae'zel's story, obviously you've played it, but there'd be people come up to me and say, I've experienced a lot of religious trauma, and your character has helped me realize that, you know, it's not okay, or she's helped me to make a change in my life, or she's helped me to process this feeling. Somebody came up to me and they said, Lae'zel has helped me by playing this game more than years of therapy has helped me, because of the things that I've experienced that are similar to her story. And I'm just like gobsmacked. I'm gobsmacked by that. And again, that's the power of video games. It's incredible to me.
The good it can do.
Yeah, the literal good it can do. So I just think moments like that are just so special, and connecting with these people that are just behind a screen, and then you get to see them in real life. It is a massive treat.
I remember trying to explain to one of my first employers, and this was actually in Russia. We were in Moscow on a shoot, and I was very, very junior. And he weirdly ran a gaming channel. It was like it was called like Game TV or something. It's long defunct now. But he said, I don't understand how people like video games this much. And I was trying to say pretty similar stuff. Like, you're spending so much time with these characters. It's not just 2 hours in the cinema in a dark room and then you leave after you finish your popcorn. Like, sometimes you're spending 60, 70, 100 hours with these people.
Sometimes, like, I've met people that have spent 1,500 hours, 2,000 hours. Yeah. It's a long time.
It's a completely different audience, and I think that's why, you know, gamers are so switched on. They're so passionate and they know what they want. They're not afraid to say what they want. Obviously, there's a downside to that as well. Sometimes they're a bit too much, but no offense, gamers in general. but no, they're impassioned and they care. Yes. I think that's the most important. They care about what they're consuming.
Yes, I agree. I agree with that. And each of the characters, I think, in Baldur's Gate, regardless of if they're a companion character or not, everyone's going through something. And it's all very bittersweet. There's no real happy ending. A happy ending will come with maybe a bit of bittersweet edge. And I think that's so much like life. And I think that's why people connect to these characters, because they feel real. They're going through real stuff that obviously people are experiencing in their lives. And that's why they're so connected to them.
The immersive nature of games that nothing else can really give you.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Okay, well, I think that's probably bringing us roundabout to the end. That's been about an hour. So, yeah.
That's blown so fast.
I think that probably leaves us an opportunity for a shameless plug. Is there anything you would like to, what's coming up, anything you've got planned, any conventions you're going to? You can speak directly to camera 3.
Well, I do have a lot of conventions coming up. I can't remember all of them. But I do have a link tree, so you can find all the information on there. I stream Baldur's Gate 3 on Twitch, so you can find me on there streaming. And now Silent Hill 2. The remake, which I'm also in, doing a bit of motion capture, so you can watch that.
So where would we
find me everywhere?
What's your Devora? Are you on Instagram? Are you?
I'm Devora Wilde on Instagram and basically on all the channels.
Devora, you've been amazing.
Honestly,
I could talk to you for hours and hours.
Yeah, it has flown by. It's been really lovely. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us on the first episode of the ReadyAimFire podcast.
Yeah.
You've set a high bar.
Yeah, very much.
I'm very glad to hear it.
That's it from us. See you guys on the next one.